What is up, my lovers? I'm hoping you can actually hear me on this one. Round two is always a vibe, but today we're going to be talking about why so many high achievers, why so many of us, when we have love, we lose it. Kara, can you hear me now? Let me know as you're coming on. Why we self-sabotage, why we get in our own way, why when someone wins the lottery, they lose all the money, why, although we hear of these success stories of finding love and whatever, the commonality is actually a lot of people getting love, self-sabotaging it, and then learning from that lesson. And what I want to bring to this conversation is so that we don't do that, so you don't do that. I'm going to share some stories, I'm going to share some tools, and bridge that gap, because this is a conversation I wish I heard in the beginning, because a lot of times what happens with the high achiever mind is we think something outside of us is going to make us happy. We think the relationship is going to heal that wound where we have a dark side of our brain that's actually such a dick to ourselves, and we think love is going to be this like thing, when really love is just going to mirror back the fact that you feel inadequate and you don't feel ready. Same thing with money, same thing with health. All these different parts of ourselves get in the way. Why do we do this? And so if you are new to my world, my name is Laura Patricia Martin. I'm a dating and relationship coach for high achievers like you that are looking to fall in love because you have the success, and it's a different kind of dating game. You know, you have these high standards, you have this stuff for you. So how do you actually let someone in? And so I specialize in trauma and somatic attachment therapy because most of my clients struggle with building their success off the back end of something traumatic happening in their past, and they wanted to prove, and they have learned to be hyper independent and survive on their own, and yet they desire to be feminine and to be soft and be taken care of in their relationships, but we don't really know how, and usually they struggle with anxious attachment. So I help get the body regulated around that, because the truth is, I know a lot of you are like a lot of my clients where you're doing the quote unquote work, right? Like you're listening to podcasts like these, you are on pages like these, you are watching and listening and doing things in therapy. And that part of us that's inside where it's like, I'm doing the work, but why the fuck does this not keep working out? Does that relate to you? Where it's like, I've been in the arena. I'm aware. It's not like I'm unaware that I'm a flawed human being and I have stuff. What is going on here, and what I see with my clients time and time again, and I had this block too, is that we think something outside of us is going to finally make us feel worthy, is going to heal that hungry ghost within, right? Whether it's health, whether it's love, whether it's impact, whether it's business and money. Why do you think some of the highest suicide rates and depression rates are with entrepreneurs? Because they don't talk about this enough, that the self-sabotaging and the thing that happens when we have the success, and it's like, holy fuck, that ghost inside of me is still there. And I work with a lot of people that have this happen. And that's what birthed the Alchemy of Love process. And that's what's going to happen inside of Alchemy of Love, is that we're going to heal these things so that when you get love, you keep love. And that's the biggest thing, right? I am going to talk about, how to get them, how to find them and meet people, how to get the guy, and how to then keep it. But the main part is, how do you actually heal the part of us that wants to self-sabotage? That feels like the hungry ghost, that feels like there's something that's never in us, that's constantly red flag scanning. And I know this because I did this. Also, if you're interested in Alchemy of Love, you can just message me, Alchemy, and we can have a little flirt to see if it's a good fit for you. Obviously, I'm not going to push anything, but like, if you do want to take that journey, we are kicking off in October, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. But I felt this. I remember this when I first started this whole journey. I was in a relationship with someone known as Tinder King. And I thought, if I just became really good looking, because I was a little bit of a smelly little backpacker, like looked broke, all the kind of things. I was like, if I've just become really healthy and good looking and fix the parts of myself that were stuck in this partying age that weren't really fully in alignment, I would become so irresistible that they had to love me. My external appearance, I would work on it. We see this in TV makeover shows. I was obsessed with them as a kid. And so I thought, if I just did like Princess Diaries on myself, I would become so lovable. He would regret everything he ever did, and he would stop cheating on me, and he would love me. It didn't work. It actually got super fucking toxic and abusive, and I almost died. And I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's just my life turned into chaos. And because it was such a hungry ghost, I became so obsessed with health. I became orthorexic and I got very sick, very skinny. And all of my hormones, I lost my period for 5.5 years. It took me 6 to get it back. Like, it was a whole thing. And so I thought maybe because I'm a little bit ashamed of that part of my past and what I had gotten myself into, and that I let myself get that low, that if I had enough success and people thought I was successful, I'd feel okay. And so I threw myself in work, post-traumatic growth, which is what a lot of my clients struggle with as well. Not that it's bad, right? Like I love that version of me because I am a hustler. I know how to get things done. It is this like different side of the human brain that I'm sure you can relate to. And that's why we get afraid of doing the feminine work, because it's like, will I lose my savage edge? No, you won't. There's just a way of doing things. And I had my multiple 6 figures in my bank account. I was on magazines. I had sold out events. I was speaking in rooms of 200 people. I was speaking at universities. Like, people were there. People wanted to know what I was doing and how to do it. And any time I was alone by myself at night, those dark thoughts kept creeping in. I was like, there has to be something else. Like, I'm supposed to be happy. This is supposed to be it, right? The success. My body looks great. They said I'd be happy here at this destination. They said it'd be like Disneyland. And I'm miserable. So I remember when the pandemic hit, and I was like, okay, so then it has to be like love. Like, it really, like, this has to be it. And so I was like, okay, this vision kept coming into my manifestations. This man with this anchor tattoo, he was going to fly me around the world. All this stuff. He's like holding my baby girl. All this stuff. And I was like, okay, fuck it. Let's go, America. Closed down one of my offices. Booked a one-way ticket back to America. 0 plan on any of this. We're just like, fuck it. If I'm not happy with the success that I have, and I'm not happy with the way that I look, and the things that I thought would make me happy, fuck it. And I booked a flight and I went. Not the best thing. And I found the man with the anchor tattoo who flew me around the world, and I fell deeply in love. But there was still that fucking part in me that wasn't happy. And I ended up self-sabotaging that relationship. Now, I mean, it takes 2 to tango, don't get me wrong. But there was these worthiness wounds that came up. There were all this stuff, and it was always the same thing in every single one of those situations. Because the truth is, the thing that you think is going to make you happy only amplifies the part of yourself that you're trying to fill with it. And if you don't actually alchemize and neutralize your nervous system, when you get that thing, holding it is really fucking hard. This is why so many of my clients, before jumping into work with me, that's what's happening. They get into these relationships and then they're nitpicking and they're mothering and they're red flag scanning and they're overdoing things, and all of a sudden their anxious attachment comes back, and all these kind of things that I thought I had worked on, quote unquote, come back into play. Because you can cognitively know something, you can cognitively want something, but if you don't actually heal the neural reprogramming that's within your body, we self-sabotage because we hit what Gay Hendricks calls is our upper limit. It's too much of a stretch for our nervous system. Where we are wants to stay safe. Your nervous system is always trying to protect you. That's all self-sabotage is. You know, what society says is quote-unquote self-sabotage. It's a clickbaity word, but really what it is from a science perspective is self-protection. And so if we haven't actually gone on the Alchemy of Love journey, if we haven't done this 4-month immersion that I'm walking you through, this is what we see time and time and time happen again. And then we get exhausted and we blame modern dating culture and we say there's no good men out there, or that they can't handle my success, or all this kind of thing, when really it's just we're not playing in the right arena and we haven't actually healed the wounds that are underneath ourselves. And I remember when I started this journey, because the way that I did this was one, I've been studying this for 10 fucking years, but also I was throwing myself into all of these different elements. And the reason I didn't feel like it was going to work for someone like me, because the background that I had and the journeys that I had gone on and all this stuff. So I started to try, and the only thing that I could find when it came to relationship stuff is either therapy or really woo-woo, like womb healing work things. And none of that was really in alignment for a high achiever. Because yes, now I love that stuff. Like, I've always been a spiritual human being, don't get me wrong, but I wanted actual science. I wanted things that can put me in my path and to actually fucking heal this shit. Because there's a time and a place when you get in your journey where you realize you are the common denominator of every single situation in your life. And if you want one thing to change, it's not about, let me chase the next external, let me somehow become more beautiful, let me somehow make more money, let me somehow have more impact, let me somehow find love. That's not it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. But I know you already know this, because you wouldn't be watching all my stuff, because I talk about this stuff a lot. The way to hold everything is to actually alchemize it so that when you get it, you don't self-sabotage and lose it. Because what's going to come up, and what I see with clients, is this: I'm not worthy of this. I have too much of a broken past, and they're too nice. I can't do this. They're going to find out. They're going to find out that I have demons in my closet. They're going to find out that I have rage. They're going to find out that I have depression or anxiety or insecurities. They're going to find out I'm not as refined as I look. They're going to find out. And so we start to do these little micro things where we start to nitpick them and project our insecurities onto them. And say things like, I just don't think we're compatible. This isn't working for me anymore. When it was hot and heavy just 3 weeks ago. But the truth in what that statement is the role that I assigned you in covering up and masking my shadows, you're not doing a good job at that anymore. So this isn't working for me anymore, because it's no longer distracting me from the shitty feeling I actually have about myself inside. And that might piss you off for a second, but you also know that's true. And so when you can actually go on this alchemy of love journey, when you can actually heal the things underneath you that have been orchestrated to protect you, to be hyper independent, to have this masculine shield, to have it all fucking together and be wow, 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 like all the kind of things. Wow, wow. I don't know what the fuck that was, but you know what I mean? All these shields we built up because of the bruises of our past. When you can actually alchemize it and be like a fucking peach where you're soft on the outside, but you have this hardcore center that no one could fucking fuck with. When you do that, that's what creates love that lasts. That's what the pre-housewife era is. Because again, there is no shortage of people to date. You can go on your phone and there's thousands of human beings. You can go to a coffee shop, hold eye contact, get an invite somewhere. Depending where your confidence levels are at, you can do it all. Why we self-sabotage is because we haven't alchemized to actually hold the vulnerability of intimacy, of depth, of someone really knowing you. Because when you know you so well, and I mean this to my core, the thing that I am so proud of with like the breakup I went through a few months ago, I take it as a lesson, but that means nothing about me and my worth. And to get from a place of dating people like Tinder King and getting my ass beat and being in such a fucking space to now being in a space where it's like, I'm bored with your disinterest. Like, I don't want that. I want you to get there so that when love comes, the real love, you're not hung up on these things of your past, and you're not hung up on playing small to play it safe because you don't want to intimidate, or you don't want to be too much, or you don't want to blah, like the things that we do to get low-level people to fucking choose us. I want you to elevate your nervous system, not in a fake ego way, truly subconsciously, your authentic self way, so that when love comes, it mirrors back to you and amplifies what you already feel about yourself. Love, compassion, playfulness, drive, the things that make you uniquely you. So to recap all of this and to surmise all the things that I just said, the reason we self-sabotage is because the reason high achievers self-sabotage is because you are looking for love or money or health or something outside of yourself to somehow make you feel worthy. And that is never going to be enough. Taoist culture or Buddhist culture calls it the hungry ghost. It is not that you don't have goals, and it is not that you can't have the love of your life. It is not that these things don't exist. They fucking do, let me tell you. But there's a space of coming at things from a space of abundance and a space of lack. If you're coming from love and dating and relationships from a space of lack, like I don't love myself, but if you love me, maybe I'll love me, blah, 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 all the things that we live in this wounded culture nowadays, especially the swipe culture, that's another tangent I can go on. Can you outlove my demons so I don't have to do that type of work? And then when it actually comes time to loving someone in that deep intimacy, we run away and we start to nitpick and we start to make these barriers, and then we look back a few months later and you're like, fuck, I self-sabotaged that one. Now what? This is your now what moment. So you can hold the good things that you know in your soul you deserve, because there's an authentic side of you. You know since you were a kid the type of love, the type of relationship, you know in your soul what you want to build and what you want to call in and what you're deserving of. But it takes you doing the alchemy journey, because you can cognitively say you want all this stuff in your life, and I know you have. You've got the sticky notes, you've done the podcast, you do the things, but there's a reason. And if you actually look at your patterns and you look at the last 5 relationships that you've had, whether they're romantic partnerships or business wise, there is a cycle where there's a upper limit you hit of deservingness, and so you self-sabotage in some way or another, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for every single thing in your life. You are the common denominator of every single thing in your life. And so in order for something to change, you have to do the work to change. And it's uncomfortable, but it doesn't last a lifetime. It takes time, but it doesn't last a lifetime. Just like your nervous system has been going one way for this lifetime so far, it's plastic. When heat is applied, you can shift it. And when you start to shift it, things happen like that. They really do. But you have to go all in on it. This isn't something my pastor said that I loved, where it was like crazy is called doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Immaturity is doing one thing one time and expecting a different result. And I see this too much in this type of work, where it's like, oh, I listened to a podcast, or I read Why Men Love Bitches, and I'm confused why my dating life is the way that it is, or I've taken like the way that I teach in Alchemy of Love is we go all in. It's all in. It's a done with you model. You get the teachings, because that's very important. I'm teaching you, how to find and meet people, how to get them interested in you and get them, and then how to keep it. And I'm teaching you this neurological reprogramming in the science, like the science and the psychology on how to actually let go of the past and the blockages that are keeping you from it. That's why my work is so different. It's not woo-woo stuff. Manifest the one. It's actual science and psychology I've been studying for the last 10 years, which is why when I say I want something, I get it. And when my clients do the same thing, you can see all the testimonials on the page. And so if this is where you're at in your life and you're like, I know I'm ready for love, I'm also a little scared. I also can see that sometimes I have a tendency of self-sabotaging, and I'm kind of tired of chasing this hungry ghost thing. Not that I want to lose my savage edge, because I love my passion, I love my stuff, I love going after my goals like a fucking savage, but I want love too. Alchemy of Love is where your butt needs to land. And so my schedule is open for discovery calls. Right now, I have a few spaces left. We are starting in the beginning of October. You are going to have 3 calls with me a month. You're going to have modules to watch, and you're going to have daily vitamins to take, which is like your subconscious reprogramming stuff. And then we're going to have space, because this is the thing I was missing within programs I've been taking, where I want someone to actually personalize this experience with me and go on the journey with me. So we're doing that. We're adding 3 group calls a month and then 1 week of integration. 3 group calls, 1 week. And it's 4 months long because this takes time. So if this is where you are at and you're like, I'm so fucking ready for love. I'm so ready to alchemize my nervous system so I can hold everything that I know in my soul I'm deeply desiring. Not just visualize it, but like hold it and feel worthy and authentic and loved. I invite you to a conversation. You're going to go and you're going to message me right now, Alchemy. And we're going to have a conversation. And we're going to make sure it's a good fit. And then we're going to get your butt in that door. And right now, if you sign up before the last week of September, whenever you're watching this or listening to this, the last week of September, you are going to get a bonus of Unattached and Boundaries Babies, which are extraordinary mini programs to get you off on the right foot, to get you started, to get you in the momentum, to start learning the stuff, to get you in it. There's going to be programming. There's going to be stuff to get you. It's like your homework, but it's a bonus and it's valued at $1,400. So you get that as a bonus to this. And so I'm really excited to get to know you in this container. Send this to someone as well to work on this with them. It's always exciting when you have your friends with you. And I think that's it. Share this with someone. Let me know how this landed with y'all. You know, self-sabotage is a huge one that I wish more people spoke about. You know, we talk about the numbers and we talk about the love and we talk about getting the things, but it's actually holding the things that we want. That is really the most powerful aspect of this. And how do you hold it? You do this type of alchemy work. And so share this with someone. Let me know how this landed for you. And for the podcast, make sure that you subscribe. We have new episodes every single week, and it helps us more than you know. Subscribing and or watching this video, like commenting on stuff, like it really helps digital creators. I know some people aren't digital creators. It helps us a lot with subscribing. 1, you'll get notified when we have stuff launched, and 2, it helps us get really cool guests, and it, you know, the algorithm is just a little cheeky monkey, so it really helps us with that. So let me know how this lands in the comments. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!